Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. Is this you? Do you just feel unfulfilled? You wake up every day, it's kind of like rinse and repeat. You're just doing life, but you're not really loving it. You don't feel that excitement. It just, yeah, it's okay. But there's something else floating out there and you haven't nailed it yet. You're not really sure, but this isn't exactly it. If that is you, there's somebody here to help you out. She is someone who is a certified life coach with 25 years of leadership experience, helps people make that realization all the time that there is more to life and the priority is you. And she's here with us, Vanette Hill on the program. Welcome. How are you doing today?
Doing fantastic. How are you doing, Steve?
I'm doing well. I got to believe your energy and everything you offer, you found would you say you found your life's purpose?
I have definitely found my life purpose. When you do something that makes your spirit smile and gives you joy, knowing that you're helping somebody else, you found your purpose.
That's got to be so gratifying when you work with people and take them from point A to point, call it Y, and that transformation along the way, and they turn around and look back and it's like, oh my gosh, look where I am. Look at things are so much better. I didn't even know that was possible. It's got to feel good, right?
Absolutely. And a lot of times, I always tell my clients that it's more than motivating people, because to me, motivation is temporary, right? It's really about the transformation, and that requires a shift in your mindset. And so I ask all of my clients, trust the process, trust the process. And if you're invested in you, and that's why I call it priority you, because you have to be a priority to yourself first. It's so important.
Amen to that. And that's where I went wrong. Truth be told, in my journey, I didn't take that time. And I just, wasn't happy. I wasn't taking the time for me. I viewed life as got to keep working, got to stay ahead. And what'd that do? Nothing at all.
And what folks have to understand is that everybody's journey is different. And success looks very different for everybody. And when you can come to the realization of what does success look like for me, and you sit there and define it for yourself, that's when your fulfillment comes in. That's when you're like, aha, now I'm stepping into the life I'm supposed to lead, instead of running the quote unquote rat race, right? You're doing what you think you should be doing, maybe what your parents told you should do, or maybe life just guided you along the way and you just went along the way for the ride with life instead of you taking the initiative to drive it.
Do you feel, Vanette, that a lot of people don't know what they would consider success, or they have a skewed look at it? Success is making money.
Yes, maybe. Absolutely. I would say a lot of people haven't defined what success means for them, because to your point, you're absolutely correct, Steve. A lot of people tie to how much money am I making?
Right.
But I think it was Steve Jobs. There was a quote from Steve Jobs, and I'm paraphrasing, but they said once he was really, really sick and was dying, he said, you know what? All the money in the world basically doesn't mean a thing. Because in those last moments, when you're reflecting back on your life, were you living your life trying to live up to an image that you wanted to portray, or were you really living it genuinely, doing the things that made you smile, spending it with the people that, made you feel good? Were you doing something because it had a title to it and because it had a paycheck to it, but you were miserable, you were stressed, didn't have any work-life balance? So, yeah.
And I studied him a little bit, and while his wealth did help him get certain types of treatment that ultimately, I believe many do, prolonged his life a year, two, whatever, in the end, it was still the end. It was, the outcome was still the same.
Still the same.
Yeah.
And one of the activities that I have my clients go through is called a reflection activity, where I have them really script out that you're like 85 years young, right? 85 years young. But you look back over your life and what do you want that to be? What do you want your story to be, your legacy to be for your children and for your grandchildren to say they remember, Papa or they remember grandma, and this is what they remembered, how they lived their life. Because kids aren't going to remember, oh, you bought me all these fabulous things. It's really the moments that are going to stand out the most. So what are you doing with the moments in your life? Are you living it? Because we only get one to live each day. And each day is a new opportunity for us to get it right for ourselves.
And it isn't necessarily the quantity, it's the quality. You can spend short amount of time. And it goes back to, you just brought back this memory. What are you going to do between the dashes? So you're born here, on, let's say gravestone, born this date, your life ended that date. There's a dash. What'd you do in between there? What made an impact? How did this all begin? Your passion for helping people. Tell us about that.
Sure. I've always been a helper. Even since I was like a little kid, I can remember being on the playground, trying to organize games and making sure every kid get a turn. Every child had to have a turn, to play. So I was always the one trying to give everybody an opportunity to play. Mm-hmm. And then as I got older, I've never wanted anybody to feel less than who they were. And I always enjoyed seeing people's face light up when you help them believe in their self, be it in high school, doing it with girlfriends, talking them into, you really are beautiful no matter what people say, because let's face it, in society, there's a huge deal on how you look on the outside instead of what you feel like and who you are as a person on the inside. So for me, it started a long time ago. And then I realized throughout my leadership career, as I would coach various people and mentor them and turn their lives around and get feedback from them on how I made an impact for them, I was like, I would love to do that on a larger scale. Hence Priority You.
Did you ever know that this was going to be your life? And where was the aha moment where you said to yourself, I got to make a change? This is not supporting or serving me.
So I would say that I realized I wanted to be a coach and really work with women. Probably, I would say 2 years ago during COVID, when COVID really kicked off. Mm-hmm. And I really got to thinking like, okay, what do I want to do? There's something I want to do. I just felt it in my spirit. There's something I want to do. And I thought I've always found a way to coach and mentor people. I've implemented, mentoring programs for corporations and things of that nature. And I thought I'd like to do something on a personable level, but at a grander scale to where I could touch many as opposed to one and two here and there. And
now, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, and I was saying, and that's what I set out to do, is to try to empower and educate and elevate, women. Because when you can uplift and motivate somebody, they can spread that to somebody else. And so ultimately you make the world a better place by touching one person at a time. You
mentioned women twice a couple of moments ago. Is that who you predominantly work with?
That's who I predominantly work with. I have worked with men and I've had success with men. A matter of fact, I'll tell you this one story really quick. I worked with a young man and he was married, beautiful family, young gentleman. He had to be maybe in his early 30s, late 20s, but just a lovely gentleman. But being a new parent and having a new job, he really was not able to manage his time. It's like he had started focusing so much on the baby that he forgot his wife. And they forgot you guys are still in a relationship. And so I kind of had to kind of help him see that, you're not just dad, you're not just husband, you're still you. And people oftentimes can get lost in any one of those categories. And there's a balance to it. And so we were able to get him and his wife to get more quality time. They had, a few more date nights together, just doing stuff they enjoyed. Like they enjoyed just taking walks. So I was like, that's something simple you guys can do, for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
He reported back to me, I want to say maybe about a month ago, that they're still following some of the tools and techniques that we used. And he says he's so happy, and his wife is very happy. So
that's interesting. Yeah. It gives me a different view of you in that it's almost like a 360 approach when you work with somebody. It's not just one area. It's not just, somebody, hey, I want to be more successful at, my career, whatever it might be. Okay, great. We're going to implement some of these tools here, but you have to have this other stuff over here.
Absolutely.
Make it work.
Because leaders, and I always thought, I always looked at great leaders, and great leaders typically were great individuals. They were very confident and comfortable with who they were, and they were able to do so much more when you have that clarity about yourself. And so therefore, when you have clarity, you have to know who you are first. So there is a 360 approach to that. There's the person, then there's the career. Now, some people can't compartmentalize, and they can be very successful at work, high performers, but behind the mask of being successful at work and that smile on their face, they're miserable. How many times, unfortunately, have we seen famous people who have committed suicide because, they were great at their craft, but they weren't happy, weren't satisfied. And so I think that it's very important that we tap into who you are as an individual, make sure you're good there and you know what you want, and you're just not doing things to check off a list, but you're doing things that this is a list that represents you and your values and who you are. Now we can work on the skill set, the leadership skills, and fine tune and enhance those so you can take your career where you want to go, because now you have the full clarity to understand the direction you want to move your life in, not just professionally, but personally.
As you work with leaders, what's the common denominator? What do they tell you? What are they dealing with?
Oh my gosh. The imposter syndrome is a big one. Where
wow.
you know what you know how to do this job, right? But sometimes when you step into certain rooms with people who may have a different title than you feel like you have to shrink, or you feel like your words or your opinion doesn't matter as much. So we have to get you out of that. And it happens to everybody. Like I find that a lot of people, battle with, you come across that imposter syndrome every now and then. And so I always tell people, it's not that you necessarily would get rid of these things that come up, but as your coach, I help you with tools and techniques that help you maneuver through it, so you never stay in that one space for too long, but you know how to pivot and get out of there and keep progressing.
I find that interesting, the imposter syndrome. We're talking about leaders here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Even leaders. I mean, you have a lot of people who have now been really owning up to, I too suffer from imposter syndrome. I think it was Michelle Obama who said in the excerpt of her book, she suffered from like the imposter syndrome at times. And I mean, she's the first lady of the she was the first lady of the United States, and, Ivy League education and all. So it can definitely impact you. That's why I say it's not necessarily the title that individuals carry, Steve, that makes you think, oh, they got it all together, because there's still a person behind that title and that role. The fact that you can function and do a job really well does not give us enough information to say that person is really in a good space as an individual. It says they're competent and they're able to perform their job really well, but how are they as a person?
I have to imagine it puts a lot of stress on you too, with imposter syndrome. And you just brought back a memory for me. I dealt with it. got my first job in radio. This is technically my second. I started 6 months, moved on to a big radio station, did part-time for 3 years. I'm 21 now. They made me, again, big station. They made me news and public service director in the morning. And I'm like, I don't even know what I'm doing. Half the names and I would do 2 newscasts every morning. Half the names on there, from the Middle East back then and all that, I didn't even know how to pronounce them. And there was no internet, so I couldn't even look that up.
Mm-hmm.
It was a stressful time. It was exciting, but it was also, I worked probably 3 times harder to make sure that I had myself covered so I didn't look like an imposter. But it was a challenging time, and we forget about those things. What we do to pivot around to make our way through what we're doing until we figure it out. Sometimes you never figure it out.
Absolutely, absolutely. And some of the other things that women deal with are, lack of support in the workplace. There's still not equal pay that's going on. And sometimes we're hesitant to have those conversations of asking for what we want, being able to speak up for what we want. And typically we're known to just accept. Like, if this is all they gave me, then maybe that's all I'm worth. So I'll just take this. Whereas some of our male counterparts, they're much more assertive when it comes to things like that. And they're like, well, no, I want X, Y, and Z. So now we're trying to change that narrative so that women can speak up. So you can know what you're worth to be able to speak to that. And also to network. I think that a lot of our male counterparts effortlessly know how to network and to move into rooms that maybe aren't always available to women, especially in certain industries where they may be male dominant more so in those leadership roles. And so it's helpful to have a coach and someone who can help you navigate. How do you network? How do you reach out and build relationships, especially when you're feeling like, I'm the only one? How do you open the door and make that bridge that gap? Because I tell people your network is your net worth. It's who you know that can help you get to where you want to be. But you have to be able to show people who you are. And you can't do that if you're not out there trying to mingle it with people.
And also the cultivation of relationships, keeping things moving along, and it's not so that they're at your fingertips when you need them. And of course, you're there. In the other situation, how about people who are successful networkers? When I think of that, there's a few, male and female, that pop up in my mind, and I'm like, watch how they do it. Is that something you would suggest?
Absolutely. I always suggest when people are first branching out to network and they're really uncomfortable or introverts, I always say, well, try taking a friend with you first.
Yes, I 100% agree.
Take a friend with you the first time. The next, and other things do your research. Find out who's going to be in the room. If it's a certain industry, find out more information about that industry. Do your homework so you can find different topics you can talk about. And then at the end of the day, if you ask somebody to please tell me a little bit about yourself, most people don't mind talking and telling you about themselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
So coming up with little small questions like, can you tell me a little bit about yourself? You introduce yourself and say, what do you do? And they get to talking. And then, if you get tired, I always tell people, always shift questions. Like after you ask, 3 people that question, you might be a little burnt out. Move to the next question is, so tell me, what do you do? I know you've talked about work all day here at this networking event. What do you do when you're not working? How do you let your hair down? What do you do for fun? Like what gives you inspiration? Now you're getting to connect with somebody on a more personal level. And that's where connections thrive. When you can find a commonality. At some point, we were all children. We all have a childhood story.
Sure.
We all have a mom. We all had a dad. So we have some common stories that we can begin to share with one another with some of those experiences.
Without a doubt. And I haven't been to Well, I did go to a network event a couple of months ago. I personally enjoy them, need to get back into it. COVID, put the squash on it for a while there.
Yeah.
When I go to an event, prior to going to an event, I do a visual in my mind. What's it going to be like when I get there? Who might I see? What should I wear? What's the vibe going to be? I'm already there in my mind. And more times than not, I kind of that's what I expected. And I'm better prepared for it. And of course, have some certain questions ready. And after you kind of master the networking thing, maybe you don't have to have those questions ready, but right? Do you do that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I always tell people, the first time, if you're really, really terrified, give yourself a goal. Say, you know what, I'm going to meet 3 new people tonight. And as long as you make that goal,
yeah,
be intentional about the 3 people you pick out. And the other thing I say about when you're at networking events, don't just exchange cards. When you find out a little something about a person, I make a note on the back of the card. Like if they tell me we talked and they had a child that's going to be graduating soon, I'll put that down on the back of the card. And then within 2 weeks, I'm going to use that card, reach out to that person and say, hey, I remember you mentioned, Sally Sue is going to be graduating. How are you feeling about that? Are you excited still? And they're gonna be like, oh, wow, you remember that my child is graduating. Like, that's pretty cool. So you want it to be genuine when you network. You just don't want to do it from the perspective of what you can get from that person. Because the greatest networking is done when it's from a genuine space.
You should be there to learn, not to sell.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You might think that people don't know, but I'm a firm believer in we put out energy and they're going to smell your stuff.
So you better hope your stuff don't stink.
There it is. Absolutely. And one suggestion on while we're in the networking topic, and I need to get better at this, but move on. When you're in a conversation with somebody, maybe it's a group, even if it's a one-on-one, in your mind, give it a certain time lapse and then move on. There's only a certain amount of time there, and you want to connect with a fair amount of people. A lot of times I'll be talking with somebody and I'm looking for an out and I feel uncomfortable. I want to be respectful, but it can go on and it's already ran its course. We met, great talking with you. We have a common connection, interesting what you do. I'm going to go grab something to drink, whatever it might be.
Right.
Just keep moving. We got to work it. You got to work the room.
Yeah. You don't want to spend too much. You have to find that sweet spot.
Exactly.
So I think to your point, I think it's real good to go in there, understand the room, already have set a goal for yourself of how many people you want to meet. If you're starting, I'll start with 3 or 4 people that you want to meet. And then give yourself some time to find out about that person. And after that, my exit strategy is always, it was so nice talking to you. And then I just leave. It was really nice meeting you. So nice talking to you. And then
you're out. Yeah. And it's how you deliver it. If you deliver that with sincerity, you're golden. And people pick up on it. Yeah. When somebody works with you, how does the process start? Do they go to your website and you have a free discovery call?
They go to my website. Most people just come to my Instagram. They'll come to my Instagram and I have my links on my Instagram bio. And in my Instagram bio, because people are so into social media now, that you can go to my Instagram bio. I have a link there and it has all things Priority You. My free monthly newsletter is there. I do a monthly newsletter. It's about 3 pages. It's always got leadership tips, motivational, something about self-care, because again, we have to take care of the whole person. And then events. Also, I have on there any events that I have coming up, they're going to be listed there. And you can click on the link. Discovery calls, free, 15 minutes. In 15 minutes, folks, we can have a conversation and we can find out which one of my programs will work for you. 15 minutes. The other thing that's out there, some other things that's included, I will say real quick, I do have a few things that I do on a monthly basis. One thing is called Thursday Thoughts. Every Thursday, I'm on Instagram Live doing, I call it my Thursday Thoughts because it's just me having conversations with the public. Then there is Sister Self-Care Sunday because I believe in promoting self-care. We do that every first and third Sunday of each month on Facebook Live, and it's at 4 p.m. Join that conversation. Speaking of that, we have a special pre-Mother's Day celebration coming up this Sunday on Facebook Live, where we're going to be, really giving accolades to all the moms out there, saying an early happy Mother's Day, sharing memories of times you spent with your mom, and then having discussions on when you are a mom. Nobody gets it right 100% of the time. Let's talk about some of those challenges and as well as the good times. So we have that coming up this Sunday as well.
That's wonderful. You are connecting people at the same time. You're helping them move their lives forward, but you really do care. I have to ask you, your background, flowers, you're wearing flowers, affinity for flowers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I love flowers. They're so beautiful. So beautiful. Yeah. And that's why I think spring is it's so miraculous to me when you see spring, because through the wintertime, we had that transition where everything is barren. And the spring is a time where things that you thought were gone forever, they blossom back. And that's how it is in life. We all have our seasons we go through. We go through our winters, our spring, summer, and fall, but they all circle around.
Well, if you're feeling like it's winter in your life, when it's really spring, it's time for a change. And it's right there. What's your website?
My website is www.priority4u.com.
Vanette, great talking with you. I love your energy. It's amazing, and the passion is there for helping people. And I appreciate you being here today.
Thank you so much, Steve. I had a great time.
Same here, and look forward next time we talk.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.